I'm Prophet J, and I'm here to bring you into the knowledge of holy eating. Despite all the prayers saying grace, most Christians are taking shortcuts to the grave. Regardless of what the Bible says about the blessings of God, against the very words of Jesus in John 10:10, where he says, I came that you might have life and life more abundantly. Each time that we eat, we are doing the direct opposite of what God is calling us to do. In Hosea 4:6, it says, my people are destroyed by a lack of knowledge. And this is happening literally before our eyes. When we look at the death rate, the top 10 killers besides homicides and accidents are all diseases, and diseases that can be avoided by what we eat. When Jesus was tempted in the wilderness after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, the devil came to Jesus and asked him to turn some rocks into bread. Jesus says to the devil, man should not live by bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Jesus helps us with our dilemma with modern food, and that he reminds us that we should not live based solely on our desires. When we live based solely on our desires, we allow ourselves to be easily deceived. This is the mistake that took place with Adam and Eve. When we are not discerning and disciplined, we can be led away from the blessings of God. This happened to Adam and Eve, and this happened to the generation of Israel that wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. When we trust in what we perceive and we do not put our trust and faith in God, we will not make it into our promised land. Galatians 5:13 reminds us that God calls us to be free and to not use the freedom that Christ has given us to indulge in the flesh. Paul goes on to list a number of things that are the acts of the flesh. The fifth act, in verse 20, depending on your translation, is witchcraft. Other translations use sorcery. The Greek word for witchcraft is pharmakeia, which is where we get the word pharmacy. We will touch on what that means as far as medicine, but as it relates to food, we have to understand why this is an act of the flesh. When we look at these acts of the flesh that all revolved around our desires and emotions, when we understand witchcraft from the standpoint of food, we understand that today's food has been chemically manipulated. In the book The Dorito Effect, Mark Schatzer tells us the reality of how food companies have mastered the understanding of taste down to the biological level. They understand what happens to the mind when someone smells a certain type of food or when someone tastes something sweet. They use this information to manipulate people's minds into desiring more food, even when the food has no nutritional value. When you think about an illusion or a mirage, it's something that you perceive to be in front of you, but it's not really there. This is the reality of modern food. Something that tastes like food, and your mind believes that it's food, and your mind wants more, but unlike godly food, modern food, the devil's fruit, has no value nutritionally. Your body will store modern food, the devil's fruit, as fat, and your body over time will become deficient in its nutritional needs. We saw this dynamic in the Garden of Eden, where the devil presented a reality to Adam and Eve that seemed desirable but was not the truth. Because they believed and acted on the lie, it radically changed their lives for the worse. And believing and acting on the lie, they chose death over life. When we choose to believe the lie about modern food, the devil's fruit, we are choosing death over life. As believers, Jesus came that we might have life. So when it comes to our plates, we must choose life. In John 10:10, Jesus tells us that he came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. We can't say we believe Jesus to be true, then in the same instance turn around and consume modern food, the devil's fruit. I'm Prophet J, and I pray your food journey is a godly journey.